Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone in person and also everyone virtually. Welcome to the May 14th Landmarks Commission meeting. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio Open Meeting Law in Section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of City Planning Department conducts its meetings based on Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal from any case due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the beginning of the presentation. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, virtual attendees will use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile versions and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to unmute and announce yourself before speaking. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels can be considered. Proper channels for comments are sending an email to landmark@clevelandohio.gov, email address with a comment or letter, calling or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or sending a letter or dropping off comments located at City Hall, located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to the scheduled meeting. Mr. Musson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To go over the meeting rules and procedures, the chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation is concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations and any public comments received. The deadline for public comment is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberation and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after the agenda item has been called.
We would like to call the May 14, 2026 Landmark Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Dulick? Councilmember Gray? Mr. Lozier?
Here.
AD Fields?
Here.
Ms. Sabin? Mr. Sambry? Here. Mr. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Trosick?
Here.
Dr. Williams? And Ms. Trott. Madam Chair, we do have quorum. I'd also like to note that we have myself and Jessica Beam from the Landmarks office present and Sierra Lipscomb from law.
All right, excellent. Well, then we will begin with our certificates of appropriateness. We'd like to call our first applicant forward to tell us about your project located at 3020 Carroll Avenue, siding replacement.
Hello, my name is Tara Tulis. I work for Forest City Builders. We also have Aaron Jacobson, the homeowner, and then Stefan Mendrea, the CEO of Forest City as well. So the proposed design for the 3020 Carroll Avenue is removing the existing T111 siding on the 3 perimeters, and then the front facade of the building was covered in an EIFS material. So we're proposing to remove the the vertical siding that was on the building, on the house, and replace it with an LP Smart Side vertical siding. We also have, there are 2 houses on the property. So that is what we're proposing for the front facing facade. And the back house, we are proposing that we use a vinyl siding on the east and west sides, and then on the front facade, we were proposing to do a shake siding. Now, if you scroll through to page 7 of the design packet, you'll see the front facade of the home. Sorry, keep going. So this was what was existing, the existing conditions with the ephes on the sides. Now, there is glass block on the front of the home as well as the east side of the home as well. So with the vertical orientation, we were hoping to kind of create a nice cohesive design with that without removing any of that material. So because the glass block is staying, we wanted to kind of, work with the materials that are existing. These are photos of demo. And then if you click to the next slide over, you'll see the existing materials that are deteriorating. And then the next slide will show you what we're proposing in this new design layout. Erin, if you want to jump in and bring anything to the table, you're more than welcome to do so. You're on mute.
Good morning. I'm Aaron Jacobson, the new homeowner. Nothing significant to add, but just to build on Tara's comments and our intentions. We were drawn to the kind of hybrid historical and modern features of the house. We see the glass block, which you can see here on the front facade, but which wraps around almost the entirety of the visible eastern facade as, really like the defining architectural feature of the house. And in residing the house, we wanted to, kind of honor the spirit of that glass block. And we think that residing it with vertical siding, as it has been, I think for 40 years already, is the best way to kind of restore the home to its former glory, and architecturally kind of frame that glass block, these vertical bays of glass block, in the most appropriate, pleasing way.
So this slide just shows what was existing and what we're proposing in the Rookwood historic Sherwin-Williams color. And then then this just details out for you guys the materials being used. Like I said, it's the LP Smart Side siding that we're proposing on the main house. Then if you click through, I just have provided all of the spec sheets of the materials of the finishes. And then this is the back house. We're proposing the shake siding on the front and then a vinyl siding on the remaining. And then the rest of the presentation just includes your spec sheets and also photos of existing homes in the area that also have the vertical siding. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Before we move to our comments, we will hear from the local design review committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee on the 7th. There was a lot of discussion about the work that was done in the 70s on this home, the appropriateness of said work in the 70s, and how the work in the 70s is now rearing 50 years and significant in its own right. So there's just a lot of discussion about that. Overall, there was a favorable reception to using vinyl vertical siding in this particular case, but they did have a lot of kind of concerns on the texture in using the textured siding versus the smooth siding. And then there was a discussion of the alley treatment preference with a preference for a non-vinyl product on the alley facing elevation of the back house. And so ultimately they did two separate motions. One was a recommendation for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the front house, that with the recommendation that at least the front or south elevation or facade be smooth siding, and a recommendation for the rear house with the condition that the alley facing elevation be upgraded material from vinyl to a hardy or similar.
That's a north elevation.
Yes, so the alley facing is the north. That's the back house.
All right, thank you. And Landmark staff recommendations.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Staff largely agrees with the approach recommended by the local committee. This is sort of an interesting area of Carroll Avenue. See on this section of Carroll and then on Bridge Avenue, there are some really unique 1970s rehabs, some of the earliest rehabs in the neighborhood of the modern era, I guess I would say, which are coming into being historic in their own right. So it's sort of an interesting discussion. But with this one, you can see there's originally horizontal siding, very little of it's left. So yeah, I think given the lack of the original siding, the changes in the fenestration, the overall additions and changes to the house, we feel it's appropriate to proceed as recommended by local.
All right, thank you. Then we'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? Oh, Ms. Anderson,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
don't forget to unmute, Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not comfortable with the monochromatic treatment. I see only one color, even if there was some sort of a variation around with the trim. On the gable, I think that would enhance it. I think a lot of unfortunate things happened to these houses in the 60s and the 70s, and people did a lot of rehab on a shoestring budget because it was hard to get money back then to do these kind of rehabs. We kind of have to work with what we got. But that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to commend the applicant for taking on this project. It's obvious that the existing home is in distress, and given the renovations that were done in the 70s, which was probably prior to the even existence of the Landmarks Commission, I think the modern approach, given the extent of the glass block that is present in the house, is appropriate, and the proposed siding material is a very durable product. I would like the applicant's response to the suggestion to go with the smooth siding as opposed to the textured base of the siding.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that. I understand I understood the comments at the design review board meeting last week about using smooth on the south-facing facade. Personally, I do think that the textured offers a little bit more character depth. I think especially in keeping with the spirit of the house, at the time that the T111 was originally put on, introduced to the property when the glass block was, I think textured suits the property well. It gives it a certain warmth and texture that I think would be a shame to lose. I know that a lot of the other rehabs in the area use, smooth hardy board. I don't think, to me personally, and this is just my aesthetic preference, I think it lacks a certain soul. So I of course will do whatever the board recommends, but especially if the recommendation is only to use smooth on the south-facing street facade and textured elsewhere, I really would like to, I would love to be able to use textured throughout the home, keep it consistent. In fact, once this LP product, the textured product, is painted, I don't think that the textured appearance is really that overwhelming. It's really quite subtle, actually, and it just offers a little bit of depth that I think would be nice in this property.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments. That's helpful. I personally, if it was my house, I would go with the smooth treatment over all of the facade. But given your preference, and I understand your preference for the textured material, I would defer to your preference, and I don't have any problem with that. And I also don't have a problem with using a vinyl product on the alley facing north facade in the alley. I think that we should primarily be concerned with the primary facade to the south. And so I personally don't have a problem with the vinyl used in a alley application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to commend the applicant for purchasing his home and taking on this project. It's certainly the home certainly needs a little love, and so thank you for taking this on. Ohio City has sort of a rich history, right? And as Mr. Musson had mentioned, there's some quirky 1970s rehabs in the neighborhood that I think help, while not historic, I think help add to the charm and the character of Ohio City. And, there's a couple of other sort of quirky homes on Carroll as well. And this is a really sort of interesting example of that. So I don't disagree with the vertical use of the vertical siding. I think what we're looking at here is a pretty handsome sort of representation of sort of a cleaned up version of what was there before. EIFS is not something that is while was added, is not something that really is great for Northeast Ohio. So I think making something much more consistent across the entire front building makes a lot of sense. I have a couple of questions. So this is just looking at siding. Are you also planning to replace any of the windows or the roof or anything else, or are we just looking at the siding?
Just
Sorry.
looking at the siding.
Yeah, just the siding. No replacement of any of the windows or the roof or anything like that.
Gotcha. Thank you. When it comes to the smooth versus textured, I mean, this is all, I understand, personal preference too, and I think that there is something to say about the textured surface. My only sort of qualm with that is that, textured makes it feel much more rustic and a little bit less refined. And I think for the context of this home in this location in Ohio City, I think that smooth would be would fit better with the larger context. And I would probably, and my recommendation there would be, it would be consistent across, all of the facades of the home. Whatever ultimately we decide, I think consistency across all facades makes the most sense. So either all smooth or all textured. But my preference would be that it would be smooth. But I'm interested in hearing what some of my other colleagues think about that too. I also, I think that the brown is a handsome color as well. But, what other color opportunities might there be for this other than a brown that again, I think makes it which might make it feel a little bit different than sort of just a sort of a staid sort of background sort of color to the street context. I think those are all of my comments.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lozier. Other questions and comments? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question regarding the alley. I'm familiar with the area, but not that familiar with the alley. And is that primarily a service alley, or are there other homes or structures that are front facing to the alley? And I guess while I have the floor, I agree with Mr. Lozier on the texture. I think having the smooth surface is a little more refined and elegant than the rough surface vertical siding. So yeah, so regarding the alley, I just was wondering if it's used by other.
It appears to be just a service alley with garages, and there aren't any homes or anything like that in that alley. So I believe it to just be like a service alley, access to people's garage spaces.
Correct.
All right. I guess I'll give my comments now. I would agree with much what that was said. My personal preference is for the smooth texture because it feels more refined and more contiguous with what is in the area, where the texture looks more rustic, which also for me personally makes it feel like it's still the T111 with that texture versus really highlighting the work that you're doing here and really bringing up the entire appearance of the building. So it's not something I will die on the sword for, but it is something that I think I would like to recommend, but maybe not require. But having it consistent across the house, I think will really make this shine because you're using the right material on all elevations. So if I had to choose, I'd like it to be all the same. I would agree with, a little bit of what Mr. Lozier was saying and what Ms. Anderson was saying is that I think another color is appropriate for this, and whether that is using a different color for the brown, as Mr. Lozier was saying, or adding an accent color like Ms. Anderson is saying to, at minimum, the trim, so that it just has a little bit more depth to it, because I think it's a very minimalist house, but that would really make it shine, is to have a little bit more depth either in the color overall and or the trim color to just accent what some of the nice features the house does have. I am fine, though, to align with Mr. Strickland with the rear building, since it is a rear building and very difficult to see from all directions, it feels like. I am fine with vinyl being on the north elevation, since it is not the primary elevation or focus of the property or visible from the main Carroll Avenue. So overall, I'm in support of the project, but would, recommend, looking at smooth and or adding, reviewing the colors on the house to either add a trim color or adjust the brown to something that's a little bit richer. Those are my comments. Other questions and comments from the commission, or would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion to approve as presented with the recommendation, not requirement, to consider the smooth siding on all of the facade, all the faces of the facade of the front house. And with the recommendation to consider paint colors, both body and trim, and then just review all of the final final sort of factors with staff, and also approving the use of vinyl on the rear house of the property.
All right, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Stanberry. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
Thanks, I just got one.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
AD Fields,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, the motion passes by a vote of 7-0 with 1 abstention.
All right. Congratulations. Your project has been approved. We look forward to seeing it progress.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our next applicant, Ascent at Broadway, located at 5700 Broadway Avenue, facade renovation.
Hello all, this is Gabrielle Bunsen, a project designer at DS Architecture, and here with me today I have Ali Clark representing Ascent at Broadway. Today we'll be talking about storefront renovation for the building, so let's get started. Next slide, please. So our site is located at 5700 Broadway Avenue in Slavic Village. It's quite close in proximity to the East 55th and Broadway intersection, which has a lot of historic significance in the neighborhood, as it was a core commercial zone during that period of historic significance. Because of its close proximity, we want to make sure that the restoration that we complete reflects the history of the building itself as well as the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So today we'll be focusing on purely the northeast street-facing facade. That's the only facade that we're planning on completing any restorations for. Although, to give a bit of context, we're looking at a building that has 2 neighboring common wall buildings with common walls between them. The majority of the occupants are entering through the rear of the building from that parking lot, and the storefront will be acting more as an emergency egress. Ali, do you want to talk a bit more about the program of the building and the occupants?
Good morning. I'm Ali Clark, as Gabrielle said, owner, founder, and CEO of Ascent. We are a specialized educational program serving students with emotional needs, behavioral needs, and mental illness. And so we use the back entrance off that parking lot for their personal vans to arrive in the morning. In the front, we are doing that as part of the Steelyard TIF money administered through Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. And so we're really doing that to secure our site and to update the appearance from Broadway. So we will have emergency egress there. Perhaps in the future that will be used as a separate entrance for some other service lines and programs we intend to run out of the building that will, be consulting or other things community facing, not educational. And given the location on a main bus route with wall-to-wall windows and the population that I serve, we do need to have to make some security enhancement for that space to protect the students that I serve. And so we're looking at different glass material and things of that sort to have that updated and upgraded appropriately.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. So here are some photos of the existing building. As you can see, it doesn't really meet the needs of the current program. There's a lot of transparency, not a whole lot of privacy, and just in general, it's in a bit of disrepair. That soffit system definitely needs updating, and so that is what we're kind of looking to improve here. Next slide, please. That being said, we also want to maintain the historic integrity of the building. Here you can see the earliest photo that we were able to find, estimated around 1968. You have the storefront system that's currently in place being shown. So, you know, it's about time that that's updated. Although I would also like to note the dark trim around the upper windows. That is something that is currently painted white and something that we are kind of planning on restoring to its original color. Next slide, please. And to wrap up the historic significance portion of this presentation, here are just a few images of that neighborhood, of that streetscape throughout the ages and how it's changed. Next slide, please. So here is an elevation view of what we are looking to change. In short, we are looking to replace that entire storefront system as well as the current signage on the building. That being said, we are looking to maintain the stone at the base of the storefront on any of those bump outs, as well as on the side of the storefront. And finally, as well as that metallic center portion of the storefront system that's kind of shown in a matte flat gray on this image. Next slide, please. Additionally, we are looking to replace the soffit system and lighting within the storefront, while also maintaining the historic tile flooring and at any recessed portions of the storefront. Next slide, please. So here's the proposed storefront. As you can see, we are replacing that chrome gray silver storefront system with a dark black storefront. There are a lot of buildings surrounding this one that have a similar dark storefront system. We are planning to also match that to the upper floor windows, which would just be a paint finish, as well as a replacement of the existing signage, which currently is just shown as a kind of matte color wash, and a change in the blade sign, which we'll go over in a few slides. Next slide, please. Here you can see the maintained tile flooring of that recessed portion, as well as the reflected ceiling plan. Here we're planning on replacing the existing with both a pack-clad 12-inch flush soffit in a matte black finish to match the mullions of the storefront, as well as the Trex Brainscape soffit light in a matte black. Here we have just some puck lights to replace those existing lights that are currently there. Next slide, please. In addition to the exterior changes to the storefront, we are also looking to install a couple of privacy and security interventions within the interior of the building. Firstly, we have a privacy window cling on any of the portions that are kind of not within that main space. And then we have some automatic roller shades, which we're looking to install on that first mullion right above the door, just to provide a bit more privacy during the day while students are occupying the building. Ali, do you have anything to add here, or do you think that covers it? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. So this is kind of the section that I'm anticipating questions on, so I will kind of hold for that. I will say, though, it is important to us to maintain the historic fabric and character of that building. I took great care on the interior renovation, and we're taking that same care to the exterior. However, we also want to protect the integrity of the programming and the privacy of our children with really intense needs and disabilities. So we'll kind of talk through that, as I'm sure the questions may arise about visibility through the windows and things of that kind.
And just to note before we move on, you will notice that there are a couple of less doors on the storefront. We have reduced those to the amount that is allowable by code, just to prevent, access, entry, or points of entry, just keeping it as secure as possible. Next slide, please. Here you can see those areas of installation just on the interior, just to provide some context. Next slide, please. And now we're reaching the end of the presentation. We will be coming back later for the signage final presentation, but to give you some context, we have a signage concept. We are planning on using the exact same location of the current blade signage, as well as the same base shape of the blade signage, but just replacing the current lettering and graphic with the graphic for Ascent at Broadway. Next slide, please. Just to wrap up, some renderings of the facade from, someone who would be walking along the sidewalk. And next slide. And finally, a couple of renderings showing the daytime with that shading implemented, and then the night from the lighting shown. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your comments.
All right, thank you for the presentation. We will start with Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Greater Cuyahoga Valley Historic Design Review Advisory Committee on April 21st. The committee did discuss the plans for the window clings and kind of describing that they're planned to be frosted, not really designs. The questions on kind of discussing those windows on the second floor, and really wanted to make sure that the elements for the storefront system were retained to match as much as possible, especially the granite base to remain and be replaced as needed. Similarly, they did recommend the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with the soffits and lights replaced in kind, the sign in the existing place as their applicants have described, the granite repaired or replaced and matching granite, and then the existing entrance mosaic, as our applicants mentioned, retained.
All right, thank you. And Landmarks staff recommendation.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dan, do you want me to start with the Slavic Village?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
We had
Sorry, we did receive a letter from Crystal Sierra at Slavic Village Development. She was not able to make the meeting, but I did want to read that letter just before we did the staff report. She said that I would like to express enthusiastic support for this project. Allie Clark and her team have been in constant communication with our team at Slavic Village Development, and I feel like the design of the window coverings, proposed signage, and reconfiguration of the doorways is tasteful, discreet, and will increase safety and privacy for the school during hours of operations without detracting from the historical character of the storefronts. The window design and sign are sensitive to the historic nature of the building and context of the district.
All right, thank you. And then staff recommendations.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, we're also excited to see a new use going into this building, and I think this is one of those projects that it's a challenge of a new use in a building, because this building was built for Kresge's, which was a department store. I think one side was 5 and dime, the other side was a quarter to $1. So they But it was, built with display windows. They wanted people to see the wares that they were selling. Now we have a use that they want to obscure those windows because it's a very different function inside. The project did go through the storefront renovation program back in 2005. That was to create office space, which again was, I guess, a little easier to keep open and well lit, visible from the street. I think in general, I think we just need some more information on this, like measurements for the windows. I think the double transom should be examined. That might be better off as a single transom. Might gain some, I guess, feedback from that historic image they showed. The color is also, these are sort of unfinished aluminum systems. Or anodized aluminum systems, probably installed in the 50s. So they're kind of historic in their own right. That was part of why they were sort of retained when it went through storefront renovation program back in 2005. So I think keeping that finish, that color is more appropriate than going with the dark color. Also, in just sort of looking for those measurements on the of the window systems, one of my concerns is the thickness of a modern aluminum storefront system. Those corners, especially when you have non-right angles, they essentially have to put two-inch pieces of frame. So you end up with a pretty bulky corner where the historic one was probably just a thin piece of copper or something, or a thin piece of aluminum. So it bulks it up, and I just think we should see a little more of that detail to understand what the final look will actually look like before approving it.
All right. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that is all.
All right. Then we'll open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments. Would like to start us off? Jessica, could you go to the historic picture? Quickly. Okay, thank you. You can go. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to commend the applicant for making this substantial investment in this property. And I just want to say I'm mostly in alignment with the staff comments, especially the divided transoms. I think a single transom would be better than the horizontally divided transom. And regarding the color, I'm fine with the dark windows on the second floor. On the first floor, I see a lot of black being used on bulkheads and, doorways trim. And the dust, it gets dirty and it's hard to maintain. So I think, going with something even a little lighter would be more keeping in what was there and would be an easier thing from the standpoint of maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other questions and comments from the commission?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councilwoman?
Thank you. Yes, I am. Matter of fact, I've been through the asset school when I came in to view it, and I would tell you, I didn't know what it looked like before until I seen the pictures of the past. But what Ms. Clark done to it is just amazing of the difference of the work she put in the interior of that building is absolutely beautiful. And the time and the effort that she put in there for the kids to be comfortable in the classes in that building is really overwhelming. So I do go and visit. I have visited the school quite a few times, spent some time walking through the up and downstairs, and just the work and the craftsmanship that was put in that building, seeing the building as it was before. It's just amazing to see the difference of what she already done and what she wants to do to it. it's really even an extra additional to put a beautiful storefront on Broadway, as we know, as it, where it is now. And that is the goal. That is the goal to update those storefronts into a better historical look for that area per se. And I do respect the staff staff information on what else that needs to be done, because this is you guys' expertise. But I do will support and approve the building moving forward with the new design, but also support what the staff need to say what more need to be adjusted.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Other questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Overall, I think it's a great design of what was there historically. I do agree with removing the upper transom and keeping a single transom on the overall storefront, and going with a lighter color storefront system. I guess I have a couple questions. First, is the window cling going to be on the inside or the outside of the building?
It'll be on the inside.
Okay. And there's no design or decoration other than frosted, correct?
Correct.
And is the second floor in use as classroom space as well?
Not as classroom space, but more administrative space. Correct.
Okay. So there's no need for
Yes.
privacy on the second floor.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think, like I said, overall, I'm generally in alignment with staff. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stanberry. Mr. Lozier?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to first start off by commending Ms. Clark on taking on this building and really bringing a new use and a really great use to this building. So thank you for that, and thank you for the incredible investment you've already made in this property. I have a question. So understanding that the existing storefront is what we're seeing in the historic photo, is there any scenario where we retain that existing historic storefront and then just apply sort of the window film and the other security measures? I'm not quite sure sort of the condition of it today versus when it was restored in 2005, but I mean, there's to me, there's maybe some merit in retaining what's there today and modifying it to be able to suit the security needs that you're looking to accomplish.
So actually, since these past images were taken, there has been some damage to some of the glass panels. So there is some damage to the current system. And I think, given that we're also looking to reduce the amount of doors to the storefront, that may be a difficult solution to maintain those existing storefront panels. Do you have anything else to add, Allie?
I do. I'm sorry. I just had to run to a new space. I stepped out of a conference. So I heard the comments. So to be very honest, a couple weeks ago there was a shooting. About 30 bullets were emptied into two teenagers on Broadway in front of the school. So there are now 3 bullet holes through the through the glass above the mullion. One 18-year-old died in the street. And the 17-year-old is in critical condition. And it was a shooting at a business right next to mine. At the time that happened, one of my staff members and a student were working in that open space that we use as an art gallery. The pictures don't feature that. They're from a few months ago. And so I have concerns about the population that I serve and their safety. That glass is rather thin. It is old. It's especially very thin in those bump outs. And so as much as I would love to save money and reduce waste, I really need that replaced.
Thank you for the context there, and I'm sorry to hear about that. That's absolutely terrible and terrifying. So thank you for that. I appreciate the added context there. Uh, that said, I do tend to agree with staff in terms of maybe making that a lighter anodized aluminum system versus a black system, in keeping with sort of what generally is there, and to staff's comments as well. I think it would be very helpful to provide them with the final details of the system that's being proposed, as well as the specifications on the blinds and the window film as well, for their review and final consideration. But thank you for the context, and again, thank you for your investment here.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Lozier.
happy. I'm happy to do it. Thank you. If I may address, I'm sorry, in the transition, I kind of lost track of where we were. If I may address the, I don't know the word, Gabrielle, but like the kind of double mullions, that change that we want to make. Yeah, instead of just having one transom, that idea came about for replacement. So the smaller the glass size, the more cost effective it is for me to replace it if there is damage, and the quicker it can be replaced so that we wouldn't have to spend time boarding that up. And given that's a very high traffic area, the rate of speed's quick on Broadway, there's lots of dirt and rocks and chips that can happen there. And then obviously the story of the gun violence 2 weeks ago. And so we have the door height is kind of set, right? That's a relatively standard height, but I would like to be able to do something there to make those higher pieces, since it is a 14-foot high ceiling, just easier for longevity and replacement. So that's the origin there.
Thank you for that feedback. That's helpful to know. Mr. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions for the applicant with regard to the soffit lighting. It appears as though the existing fixtures are square fixture, and I don't know the count, but it looks like the count is being reduced and you're substituting a circular fixture. And I wondered if there's any consideration to maintain not the specific fixture, but the style of fixture that exists presently in the soffit.
I don't believe there's a specific objection to that, so that can be something that we look into, specifying something that is square light.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. So my other comment would be that my preference would be a lighter color for the storefront as opposed to the black, being closer to the clear anodized that exists presently. But with your explanation of the utilitarian nature of adding that mullion in the transom, I could support that, given the function of the school. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we also still need to speak on the security film. So what the decision is looking like at this point is that it will be clear or maybe mirrored, likely clear, and it will simply be security film to reduce any risk of the glass shattering and someone being able to enter. We're not looking at obscuring anything through the light with frosting. Definitely no murals or graphics. We want that to maintain looking like a storefront. We also have a gallery in that, an art gallery in that space now. So we want to strike that balance of the community being able to see in and see activation in that area, but also protecting the students that I serve and their privacy.
And that's
So that's, yeah, go ahead, Gabrielle.
and that's in the portion of the storefront with the shading, as can be seen.
That's great feedback. We appreciate understanding that it's the intentions is for clear private or clear clings, window clings versus a frosted or another pattern. Because that was going to be my only question. I think you've heard that we are all in support of this, really like what you're doing and why you're doing it in this neighborhood, and that you're trying to retain, as much of the fabric as you can. I'm aligned in the lighter color because I do agree the proportions of these windows will change as we go to a modern material, and the lighter color will minimize that, versus bring forward that those proportions are changed. So I think, with that change, I would align with everyone else. If you're doing the explanation on the film is helpful, because my only other comment is if you do anything beyond a clear film, I would recommend it being on the lower area from door height below only, if there is anything to be approved by staff. So if you go beyond a clear, we would ask you to, or require you to come back to staff to make them aware of that. And trying to maintain it in just the lower, I assume 7 feet if your soffit's 14, so that you still remain that visibility or allow that visibility above it to, the beautiful space that you have. But overall, I'm in support of the project and align with the comments that have been made. So hearing fairly consistent feedback, would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I make a motion, I do, but I will make a motion. I think one of the reasons for the silver or the lighter storefront color is, the sort of metal piece that's separating the two storefronts, I think is part of that original or that 1950s addition too. So another reason to keep that fairly consistent as well. We didn't talk about signage, and I know you're going to come back with signage, but I would encourage you all to think about that, the horizontal signage band as well above the storefronts as a really great opportunity for signage as well. There's something really striking about the historic image with sort of the large, signage there, and kind of with sort of the previous or current signage that's there as well. So encourage you to utilize that band as well as you're thinking about signage concepts. But that said, I will make a motion to approve as presented with the requirement to come back with final specifications, dimensions, details for the new storefront system, that the storefront be an anodized or lighter metal color, and to retain a similar square fixture and number of fixtures in the underside of the soffit, and to provide staff with final specifications on the window film, as well as roller shades.
All right.
I think I captured everything.
I think you captured everything. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. We have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations. Your project's been approved. We look forward to seeing it move forward.
Thank you all. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
support.
We'll move on to our third applicant, located at 16401 Highview Drive, window replacement. Or window installation, sorry. Do we have someone?
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So my name is Ryan Hume. This is a particular project that somehow, some way, our ordering team had this project released and installed before permit being issued. We've done tons of work in the area, so this is a first to my knowledge that this accidentally happened. So we got put to this meeting for basically the front of the house from my understanding, the size in the back, there's not much changes that happen from the old windows to the new windows. They were just had some additional questions regarding the front because there was a couple changes there. But regarding the front of the property, there had to be some changes because they had the old school, very thin pane patio jealousy style type of windows that were there. So regardless, there had to be a change. And I think there was some misunderstanding in the last meeting that we were a part of because they were thinking that the horizontal metal framing portions were like a grid pattern to windows, but it was not. That was just a frame of the window that had multiple vents. So we did have a change to the front of the house. As you've seen the pictures, there's the old and then the new it's basically two picture windows flanked by double hungs as far as the change goes. To my knowledge, that's the only thing that needs to be discussed regarding this project. But of course, if you have any questions, I'll answer to the best of my ability.
All right, thank you for the presentation. We'll hand it over to staff to provide feedback from the Greater Cuyahoga Valley Historic Design Review Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this project was reviewed by the Greater Cuyahoga Valley Historic Design Review Advisory Committee first March 3rd. March 3rd, yeah. They tabled the project at that time. There was a lot of discussion about the change of the color of the windows, since the original windows on the home were the original metal windows, and that the proposed changes did not match the original configuration. There's also a request for more information to be needed, since at that time it was not clear that the windows did match or didn't match around the home. So they did table to come back with more detail, and wanted to see how that change in style would work with the home, since it was a stark contrast from what was existing. And mostly noting that the front elevation was significant with specific windows that work together, and that for horizontal light or jealousy window configuration to be replicated. They returned back April 21st, and there was discussion about the work that was completed, and the committee members noted the loss of style. The prominent style was removed on the front of the home, so the architectural influence was lost. And there was a bit of discussion about if the original character in the rhythm could be redone or reproduced to keep the continuation, but with double hung windows instead of the original thinner glass window. And the committee at that meeting did move to recommend denial of the project based on the presentation and work completed.
And landmark staff recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff is fairly aligned with the local design review committee on this one. As Jessica and our applicant noted, the work was done between the first meeting at the local design review committee where this was tabled, and then the second meeting where this was reviewed. So it's kind of in the midst of review, the work was done, which just as always makes it a challenge to review anything. We have concerns about the changing configuration. Those jealousy windows are the, I guess, louvered vents. Were kind of a significant architectural feature in the rhythm that they, created while sort of alternating with the picture windows was, I think, a significant feature of this building. So we would, recommend denial and encourage them to consider going back to a more appropriate pattern for the building on the front.
All right, then we'll open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm personally in agreement with staff and local. It's unfortunate that the work was already done and completed without this going through the proper channels. And I am in agreement that I think those particular, front windows, the sort of the larger front windows, should be uh, reconsidered in the sort of original configuration, at least in terms of the rhythm. So wide, narrow, wide in the sort of first left-hand bay, and narrow, wide, wide, narrow on the second left or right bay, to fit with the original rhythm. So I think that's where my recommendation would be, is to replace with that existing rhythm in mind. Understanding that the jealousy windows are no longer sort of manufactured, or not common anymore. I'm okay with changing those to something else, something that's operable. But that would be, for us to review a proposal at a future meeting, or work with staff on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in alignment with what Mr. Lozier's comments. I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I just want the clarification. These vinyl windows, I know they come in white. I think they come in almond. Do they have a light gray offering?
No, extrusion colors are white and a beige or almond color only.
Okay, thank you. And also a clarification. There was a meeting of the design review. And then the work was done? Is that what I heard correctly? Okay.
That's what
All
you
right.
heard, but that is not correct.
What?
Help us understand what.
Yes, if you
So
could help us
prior-
understand.
Yeah, no problem. So again, we as a company, Window Nation, do a ton of work in the review board areas. So this is new to us. Again, it was just a human error. Accidentally ordered this before we had the meeting set up. So the work was actually done prior to the very first meeting. It was not done after the first meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate the comments and the clarification. Other questions and comments from the commission? I will refrain from making comments because I didn't see the full presentation. So any additional questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think that the installation that was completed just totally alters the appearance of this home. And whether this vendor is able to supply an appropriate window configuration, or whether the homeowner unfortunately has to find an alternate vendor. I think it's very important that a window pattern that replicates what originally existed be used as a replacement for the windows in this home. It's my comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Strickland. Hearing fairly consistent feedback from the commission. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Anderson?
Madam Chair, I would move to deny the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for this window replacement.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Thank you, Ms. Strickland. Ms. Anderson?
I would second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Lozier?
Just so clarification question. So all of the windows were replaced on all the sides of the house. I think we're only really talking about the front windows, correct? So I would be comfortable maybe suggesting that the balance of the windows are approved as presented. However, deny the certificate of appropriateness for the main sort of large windows at the front of the house. Are we able to do something like that, or what's the right?
Yeah, through the chair, I think that would be an approval with the condition that the windows on the front of the house be removed from the scope and those come back through for review. I don't know if there's a better way to do it.
Do we just deny, or do we deny it and then come back and represent everything as?
That was the intent of my motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we
Okay.
deny the
Since they're
certificate of
installed.
appropriateness, and then the applicant can include the original installation as part of his reapplication.
That's gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Right, any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Muslim, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
AD Fields,
Yes.
Mr. Stanbury,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Trozik,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
I'm going to refrain.
Abstain,
sorry.
Madam Chair, the motion passes by a vote of 6-0 with one abstention.
So your project has been denied. Please reach out to staff to outline the next steps in this approach for this project.
Okay, I just have one final question. What would be the suggestion on how we can get an approval status since we are unable to manufacture? I don't think anyone manufactures jealousy windows anymore. So again, there has to be some sort of change. What type of change would you be okay with?
I think an offline conversation with staff would be helpful for you to work through the different options that you have and what may be appropriate. Does that make sense? I don't think this is the forum that we can answer you right now. An offline conversation where we could go deeper would be a better time to have that discussion.
Okay,
So
is
good.
there-
Through the chair, Brian, I'll reach out this afternoon or tomorrow and we can talk that through.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our next applicant located at 4104 Whitman Avenue, revision to the previously approved renovation. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us in person.
Just want to tap the little red rectangle there. There you go.
So in terms of our revision to the original, we've done some work on the property. I'm attempting to follow the guidelines as our contractor understood them. And then we've had a number of comments through the community as well as from the staff here about a couple of things. One is the community is happy that we finally taken on this project. It's a very, very large house, right in the corner, so it is up until now been an eyesore. So everyone in the community is very happy that we're moving forward with this one. In terms of some of the things that happened before I became project manager on this one, want to address some of those and then kind of share how we can move forward with that. So we've got three components that we're going to come back to. One was the siding, the windows, and the porch. So how do I? Okay. So this was from a windows perspective. This is what the property looked like on the north side. And then the north side, the west side, and the front, which is on the south side. That's still the side, on the Randall side, and then on the front. So what we've done is we've come in initially and we've done a lot of the scraping and painting, which was in the original review plan. And then what we've noticed is going back to the side. On the side here, there are some patches and places that we didn't think were appropriate. So what we're going to do is, as part of the process, we're going to replace most of the boards on the west side with the fiber. So we're going to replace those using, according to the standards that were presented to us. We feel it's better to do that than do vinyl. So we're going to do that, and we're going to replace it with the ones on the side. Even though it looks okay here, we think we're going to replace most of it appropriate with the. So we're going to replace it with the hardy board siding. It's going to be smooth. So I heard everyone say like smooth here. So we're going to do the smooth and just keep it simple. So we're not trying to get fancy with the outside, but we think that it's very nice the way it's looking so far. So just want to give you approval on that side when it comes to the hardy board on the side, mainly on the west side of the project, because the front, when we did it, the way there's some techniques that we used on the front that we didn't use on the side. So it just makes it more appropriate, we think. Okay. Secondly, going through on the windows, if we look at the picture that's what it currently looks like. Before I got here, they actually accidentally they put in vinyl instead. It doesn't necessarily change the look and feel from what it was originally. Let's see if I can put it back. Okay, let me try to find out the regular picture. I'm not sure what this is. You go back to the windows on the original. Here we go. On the windows on the original, when we started here, we take a look at these windows. Most of them were double hung anyway, and they had white framing. And then outside they had white trim around the framing on the outside, the coil. So we're going to keep that. So even though, and then what we did, we actually installed some vinyl. So the person who came out, they measured wrong. They did the wrong measurements, and we had a company come in and they installed them. We have the ability to go in and either replace them with Pella or a comparable fiber. But the look and feel is going to be the same as to what it is today. So when we look at the windows as we have it today, those windows they have the same look and feel that we're going to have with the upgraded fiber. So we're still going to use the white frame that's already existing today. So if you want us to replace those, we can do that. If you tell us, great, we don't have to, that saves us a ton of money and we don't have to do that. But I'll let you guys say whether we should or not. The last part. And this one I'm open to was with the spindles. So the old spindles that we had, the old porch had a 2-foot cross on it. We didn't feel that was safe. And it was 2 foot. So 2 foot was too short because people could fall over. And then the X's would offer no protection for the children. So we thought that if we put spindles on there, currently we have they're just straight spindles. Looking through the community, there's a combination. If you go through the community, there's no consensus. In the community, they have the ones that are spiral or circular. The house right next to us has all square ones or rectangle spindles. So it's up to you to decide which ones we should have. But we strongly recommend against going back to the X shape, because we don't think that's safe because we don't know who's going to live here. But if they do have children, even though it looks good for the 70s, we don't think it's appropriate for the community today. Simple.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. We will start with, is there feedback from the local design review committee? Just from staff? Okay.
Yep, just from staff, Madam Chair. This did not go back to the design review committee since basically here, this was a previously approved case. This commission saw this back in 2024 as case 24-032. It was approved with conditions on April 11th, 2024. I'll read the approval that was given and basically what is written on the certificate of appropriateness that was issued at the beginning of this year. when the contractor came in to pull permits. Is an approval for certificate of appropriateness for rehabilitation with the conditions that the Randall and Whitman facing elevation siding be scraped and painted or replaced with fiber cement siding, that the windows on the Randall and Whitman elevation windows be replaced with fiberglass, that the porch railings are replaced with wood, with Landmark staff approving final design, and to identify and retain all decorative elements, including the original windows, gables, and finials. The commission also asked that the applicant consider choosing an architectural asphalt shingle color that more closely matches the original slate. So since that, I guess that 2024 meeting, the roof, I guess, was re-examined and it determined that the slate was in good enough condition to maintain. So that's not in front of us as being replaced. So that's a nice, I think, a win for everyone. So the real issue is, the work began on this project and vinyl windows were installed, and that caught the attention of a lot of the local residents. We received a number of phone calls on it. So I think that the real question is, with the vinyl windows being installed, is the commission okay with vinyl windows, or would they prefer to see it go to the previously approved fiberglass? The porch was also an issue that was raised. I personally, I think staff-wise, don't have a big problem with the rectangular spindles. I think that as long as the porch elements are painted out, including the porch columns, it'll look like a cohesive and appropriate porch. But if there's preference for the turn spindles, that certainly would be appropriate for this era of building. We're a bit concerned about the loss of those 3 windows that appeared to go up the staircase. At the corner, they had a diamond pattern. So if there's a way that those could be replaced and that diamond pattern replicated in some way, I understand from a site visit I had with Mr. Murphy that they were in very bad condition. But I think something more appropriate there would be a positive. So yeah, from the previous approval, I think the replacement of the siding with fiberglass siding is appropriate. Just keeping in mind that there are a few areas where there's sort of novelty siding, like there's a sawtooth pattern cut in some of the elements on that Oriole Bay. So replicating that would be important. We also talked on site about the porch deck, which was installed more like decking material with a slight gap. I think that could be resolved by, maybe sawing a couple inches off and adding a flat board to the front so that from the street, it looks unified and you're not seeing the ends of a bunch of boards. And then again, painted an appropriate, maybe a gray porch color or something that helps it blend in with the rest of the paint scheme. The doors on the Randall elevation, so the west elevation, there's 2 doors that are along that long porch. Those have been replaced with sort of, looks like, standard security doors. And the height of the door was shrunk. So there's sort of a filler board in there. I'd like to see something more appropriate go in there to the original height. And then I think we also talked about the trim details at the soffit at the very top of the wall. Some of those were replaced with, it looks like there's just boards up there now. I don't know if those were final approach or if there was going to be decorative trim installed over those, but that was another concern that was noted.
So crown molding?
Yes, yeah. So those are sort of staff's observations, concerns. So I mean, we're supportive of the project. We're supportive of the previous approval and all the elements of it. And I think what's being proposed today is a modification of that. There were just enough questions that we thought it should come back before the commission to discuss how to resolve some of those.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Then we'll open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, thank you for taking this project on.
I'll tell you in a couple of months.
I've lived in the neighborhood for almost 20 years now. I lived on Whitman for a number of those years, and this home has always been in a challenging position, and even more so over the past several years. And I remember this coming in front of us. I don't know if I was on the local committee or if I was on Landmarks at that point, but it's, what was communicated was that the the roof was a lost cause, all of these things were in too poor shape to retain or maintain. And there was a lot of pushback I felt, at least at that time, on doing things the right way. And it's you seem to be very committed on doing things the right way. So I really want to thank you for that. When it comes to taking the windows first, so the windows on the front of the house, the windows that were there previously, were those the original windows or were those replacement windows?
Those are original. So we go back and take a look.
Okay.
But they were still double hung, so it wasn't big.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking. Yeah. So I was looking at the Google Street View, and looking at those, it seemed like they may have been replacements at some point. Because it looks like they were also a little bit like smaller within that existing opening. So, I personally would like to see those windows be an upgraded material. If they were already replaced with something, I'm, less, concerned about that. And when it comes to the windows on the side, the west side, the Randall facing side, I'm also sort of in that mindset too. Those would also be an upgraded material. I'm interested to hear what my colleagues think about that. But I am in agreement with staff on the three sort of narrow windows with that lattice. And it's a shame that if those could be, so those would be my first priority in terms of getting those to look more like the historic original windows. When it comes to the spindles and the balusters, again, I think, and I think with all of the other sort of details that Mr. Musson had brought up, I think it would be, in I think everyone's best interest to kind of just do a comprehensive look at kind of all of those things and work through those final details with staff, just to make sure, from a consistency standpoint and from a the sort of historic standpoint, that we're all sort of in alignment and agreement on that. The one thing that I do want to point out on the right hand photo is the decorative sort of screen boards underneath the porch. It looks like those were replaced with sort of just a white lattice.
Yes. So what we tried to do is we tried to match as much as we could, because there's different elevations, because we did tuck pointing for the brick.
Right.
So there's been some bowing in terms of the brickwork. So we tried to match it as much as possible, because it was a straight board going across with some trim that came out outside of it. So we tried to match that. We can go through and we can extend the trim to the outside, to basically a long strip on the outside to give you that, so it doesn't go straight down to the ground. It stops and then flips over. We can do that, put a lip on it.
No, and I think that's great. And again, I'm really appreciative that you're willing to sort of work through those details.
These are easy
as well.
This is
Yeah.
easy stuff.
No, so I mean, so my recommendation would be, really work closely with staff on just kind of nailing all of those things. Again, I have confidence that you're committed to do things,
Right way.
the right way, and really appreciate that. So, so windows, I'm still
What I would like to do,
up in
can
the
I make
air
a
on.
proposal?
Yeah.
And we can bargain, right? If you let me keep the vinyl on one side, then I will go out and find we'll design custom windows to fit those 3 slots that were there because inside it goes up next to a staircase. I think it does add character to the house, but if we're able to put it, I will work with glass makers to see if there's something that we can do to make those custom. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. So I think those are all of my comments. So I'll my comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lozier. Mr. Samberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think overall, I'm not seeing great job so far. And I think taking on this project is awesome. Overall, I'm not seeing you replace anything that had historic value. Other than those 3 windows, I think everything that you've done so far is replacing something that was already replaced. So the X's on the railings, obviously not original. And what you've replaced is something that is a very simplified version of what would have been there. So though it may not be as detailed as it was, we don't have evidence of what was there. You're not replacing it with something. We're not creating a false sense of history for that item. And I think you've done a great job of putting something there that is reminiscent of what was there, but not creating a false sense of what was there.
Character.
Not changing the character. You're returning it. You're putting it in a better condition than it was when you took it on. And I think you've done a great job with the railings, the windows. It does look like a lot of the windows were not original size. They had been shrunk a little bit. May not have been the original windows. And it looks like from the photos that you have brought them back to the original window openings. The material may not be ideal. And I think, again, we can discuss that as a board. If you're open to replacing one side, maybe the primary side, with a more appropriate material that's still not a historic material, but a more appropriate material, that would be great. Overall, I like what you've done. I think all the work you've done is to improve the building.
Right.
I would like some clarification on the extent of siding you're looking to replace, and which areas in particular are you looking to replace? You're not talking about the entire building, right? You're only talking about a
No, what we
small
want to do
location.
is on the west side of the building, if you can see how they put the whiteboards up there and they painted those like a dark royal blue. When we look at it from the Randall side, which is the west side, you can tell when you're standing there, you can see it doesn't look very appropriate. So what we want to do with that side is, for the ones that we had to replace because the wood was just rotted, we had to do something with it. What we want to do is go in with fiber, the hardy board, and mainly on the front. If you say the front part to the middle of when you have the bay window there, and then the boards above the back, on the left hand side, and then the boards that are above the roofing on the left hand side, we want to replace those as well because they're warped and they're still. So we tried to do as best we could, but they're just such bad condition. It took so long. So what we want to do is replace those and replace the ones in front, and then as necessary, do the rest, but mainly on this side. So the ones in the front, we're not going to replace that. And then the front window, we're not going to replace that one. It's in decent condition because there's no need for us to open or close the window on the front. So we don't want to modify that. We'll just paint that and leave that as appropriate. And then, like I said, we're going to, I make a promise, we're going to make the 3 windows and we get those custom made. And then see, do I need to come back to the staff and ask if to show them the style that we're going to do for custom?
Yes.
Yeah. Overall, I think that's great. So yeah, as long as you're keeping, the same spacing of
Yes. There's a 4-inch
overlap or
4-inch reveal on it.
Reveal.
So we're going to keep that. So it's going to be, we have priced out the front one. It's going to be like 90 boards in the front, but we're going to stagger those. And I think it'll take us maybe about 3 days to do that. So it shouldn't be, it's not a hard time to do it, but it's just making sure that I like the fact that even though it extends the amount of time that takes to do the project, I'm glad that we have other people in the community giving their feedback to make sure, hey, this is what we feel important. Both the people on the street as well as in the room here. I really appreciate your input.
Yeah, overall, I think you've done a great job. I like the direction that you've gone, and you're really only replacing material that was not appropriate prior to the project. I'm okay with the amount of siding you're replacing. If you're open to reinstalling the windows on the front, I am in full support of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Stanberry.
Thank you.
Other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I want to acknowledge this is a really tough project. This home was in an advanced state of deterioration. And even when we looked at it, 2 years ago, it hasn't gotten any better. So I want to say that I'm happy to hear that you're able to retain the original slate roof.
Yes.
I was kind of shocked when I drove by it. I know I reviewed the testimony from 2 years ago, and the discussion was a historically appropriate green, you know, kind of a muted green for the exterior. And, you know, this is not a historic color. You know, the bright white trim is not something that they had back in the day when these homes were built. I got an earful from a neighbor yesterday about the doors facing Randall. And I want to go on record that when possible to retain the original doors, I think every effort should be made to do that. Realizing that sometimes the original doors are just too far gone, a historically appropriate door and a historically appropriate size, especially when you can see it. This is such a prominent location. That's a must. You know, and you know, I would like to see the skirting along the porch there, you know, brought back to what should be there. I could go either way on the spindles, as long as the spindles are spaced fairly close together, like a narrow rectangular spindle spaced fairly close together would I think enhance the look of the building. But you know, like I say, the color that was discussed was unfortunately what didn't get into the motion, but it was a lighter kind of a historically appropriate green. And as far as there's a lot of decorative siding on this house, you know, with the sawtooth and the different configurations. And you know, I think we've acknowledged that, but I think it's important to retain that as much as possible. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any additional questions or comments? If not, I'll jump in. I would align with much that has been said, but I just want to state it a little bit clearer. And so the original motion was to replace both the Randall and the Whitman side with fiberglass windows. I can compromise and be aligned with retaining the vinyl on the Randall, but requiring it to be replaced on the Whitman side. Am I getting my streets right?
Right, is that?
Okay,
the
Whitman's
south
the
side?
front, Randall is
south
this what
is-
we're looking at, right?
This is Randall.
Right, so since that was our original approval was to replace both with fiberglass, I think I can compromise and
Let's go the way.
allow the vinyl to remain on the Randall, but require them to be replaced on the Whitman. So that it is aligned with, closer aligned with what we originally approved.
Okay.
I would agree with staff's comment about the porch, that if the skirting, that extra board is added to work with the board configuration, conceal the board configuration, and then everything is painted out, I could be aligned with that. Same thing with the railings. I can accept the new design versus what was previously the revision from what was originally proposed to this, because we don't know what was originally there, as Mr. Sandberry, highlighted. I do agree that I think those 3 windows at the stair should be, there's still there, they just were replaced with a
It was
fixed.
just clear.
Okay, so those should be
Custom.
Correct, replaced with a custom window to be closer to the character that was there, because that was such a unique element of this building. I do agree with the comments that the two doors should be replaced and reestablished to the original height so that, you know, it has that character, that was there.
No
Uh,
question for the doors.
Sure.
If we get custom doors, is there a specific color that you want? Because we can get them, different cherry wood, it could be pine. What color would you like for that?
We will always accept a wood door, but I think we'll say, work with staff on the final colors once you have your availability and configuration. I'm assuming it was a half light door previously or
Through
something.
the chair, if that's, yeah, so it looks like there's there was one existing half-light door and then one quarter light door maybe, so I don't know if those were original to the property or if, one was, or if one was replaced, or if someone put old doors in those spots, but there was some, at least some light to the, more than just at that top.
So I'm comfortable with working with staff for the final configuration of those doors based on what you can, get related to color and final configuration, if it's a half light, quarter light, and so forth. But I do feel that, the reestablishing the original height is, because that wasn't part of our original discussion before, but was replaced. I think that is a unique feature of this. And then finally, just reviewing, the recommendation to review all final details with staff related to any of the some of the detailing of the house. If there's any questions, reach out to staff of what is appropriate not to reestablish. But I'm aligned with reducing the replacement of the siding to just the areas that's needed, as long as the profile is the same. And the color, although it was a different color before, my personal opinion is that I'm okay with the color that is been. I know, Ms. Anderson, you disagree. But I think what you've done here is reestablish a very unique house, and those details are required. So I can, as long as since that is reversible, the color, the windows are my priority to get them back in to be established. That's my personal opinion. So are my comments. Other questions and comments? Nope, Ms. Anderson.
Just gonna make a quick comment about the color. I think once you do a hardy board in that, I call them post-conflagration color schemes. They're gonna be there, I think, a lot longer than a regular, 5 to 8 year paint job. So that's a deep concern of mine. So I just wanted
Okay. No, that's
make that
great.
clarification.
Great feedback and clarification. Appreciate that. All right, any additional questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion? Any additional questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion? Pleasure.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair. You may have to help me on all of the the specifics, but I think I got them all. So I make a motion to approve the alterations made as presented, with the requirement to replace the vinyl windows on the Whitman side with fiberglass or upgraded material. Replace the 3 narrow windows on the southwest corner to replicate something similar to what was there previously. To replace the Randall doors with full height doors that are appropriate style for the vintage of the house. Add the additional moldings as we had talked about to the that was at the
Porch.
the porches. Um, and I think, and along with that, I think it's reviewing all of those details with staff to confirm that they're all sort of working together in alignment. With the strong consideration for the color, the final paint color of the house. I mean, as you are going to be replacing a number of the boards on the side, you know, considering the color for the house for what was presented previously. I think I've gotten everything.
You did.
Right.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Sandberg. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if I may, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask that Mr. Lozier add to the motion that the porch elements all be painted. I just want to ensure that they don't end up a wood color and that we're clear on that.
Yes.
Ms. Sandberg, do you agree with that addition? Yes. Okay, so thank you. Good catch. Ms. Anderson?
I can vote for it as long as we're changing the color. Otherwise, I cannot support the motion. I think the color standards are pretty clear, and I think this does not meet the color standards for a historic district.
Are you open to changing the color?
And
Is
that could be,
okay.
and that could be done with staff.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the acceptance of that. Do we agree revising the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
To
All right.
require the color change to be reviewed by staff.
All right. So any further discussion? All right. Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Right. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
AD Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing your project completed.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Then we will move on to our last applicant. The Cleveland Public Auditorium and Conference Center located at 500 Lakeside Avenue, Cleveland Charge Signage.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Ryan Musburger and I'm with Rock Entertainment Group. And today we're presenting on exterior signage for the Cleveland Charge, who play at Public Auditorium. The intent is just to install exterior signage that drives brand awareness and showcases that the team plays at Public Hall. So with that, I'll turn it over to the Stratus team.
Good morning. I am Tracy Deal and I am with Stratus Unlimited, and we are following up with the Landmarks Commission after a couple of design review meetings discussing the appropriate signage for this public auditorium, the home of the Cleveland Charge. What we have before you are banner material that are mesh, that are consistent with other sporting stadiums throughout the city. This material is installed with a pulley system so that it is permanent in nature and will allow for air to flow through the material. And if it becomes in any way, shape, or form tethered or torn, it can be very easily and quickly removed and replaced with the exact same thing. So therefore not to cause anything that's unsightly on the structure. The images that are before you are a strategically placed image of a basketball player on the left and a basketball on the right, and then the home of the Cleveland Charge banner that is across the bottom. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding measurements or anything that you have that's technical related. I have nothing further for you, and I'll turn it over to the committee.
Thank you for the presentation. we'll first hear from the Oh, Mr. Trosik.
Before we go any further, Madam Chair, I just want to let you know I'm going to recuse myself from this particular matter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trosik. Appreciate that. Then we will move on to Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Greater Downtown Historic Design Review Committee in February, March, and April. So there were quite a few discussions. The location of the horizontal banner changed in various places due to the result of those discussions, and the addition of the two banners on either side were also added as part of the discussion. Originally, there was discussion on kind of wanting to see how it's installed and kind of the temporary nature of the installation and how it was mounted and if it was temporary versus permanent. When they did return, there was a little bit more discussion on kind of adding a more vertical elements and working with the architectural elements of the building, since it's a very large building. And so when they returned back in April, the committee did have a lot of discussion about the improvements and just more discussion, more so on the two more vertical elements on either side of the windows. And so they did recommend the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with the proposal being resubmitted, including elevation drawings depicting the banners in a more vertical orientation that fit within extending no higher than the decorative shield elements and no lower than the horizontal band, and to give space on either side of those banners and mimic the proportions of the windows within the arches to kind of continue that appearance. And they were fine with the window graphics and horizontal banner as presented, which is what you're seeing today.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And then Landmark staff recommendation.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess staff would just like to thank the applicant for making the adjustments to the the final design or presumably final design. There's been a lot of discussion about this. As Ms. Beam mentioned, there are 3 design review committee meetings, and then Ryan and I talked before all that quite a bit of back and forth too. It's a tricky building to sign. It's one of those monumental institutional buildings that it's not begging for signage of any type. It sort of speaks for itself, but we're excited to have this use in the building and we want to show it off as a city. So staff is supportive of it. I think the treatment of the doors is appropriate. The banner and essentially that sign band above the doors seems like an appropriate location. And I think we agree with local. Those banners kind of on the higher up on the ends, if those could just be made a little more vertical to more closely match the sort of window, size ratios of those windows that are held within the arched areas. I think they may have matched the ratio of the glass, but I think extending it so that it includes that bronze elements above and below the windows, so it's that full sort of dark space within the arches. I think would improve its fitting in with the building. So staff is supportive.
All right, thank you. Then we will open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Yes. Oh, Mr. Sandberg. All right, I guess I'll ask. I'm sorry if I missed it in the details. Is this being mounted to any board or is it just being mounted directly to the building itself? And then the second part of that question is the mounting, assuming the mounting will be happening in the mortar joints?
So this is Jason with Stratus. Thanks for the question. These are intended to be mounted directly to the building. And additionally, yes, we will be looking to mount in the mortar joints.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. Although I do, I'm warming up to the proportions that are shown on the rendering because I do like how it frames the basketball selfishly. But I do think that the proportions suggested by local would be more appropriate, knowing that or assuming you'll be replacing this because this is the home of the team. So I would recommend, adjusting the proportion some so that it's a little bit more vertical to relate to the window openings. And it might be just narrowing it some versus, lengthening them, but adjusting the proportions of the two banners on either side. But overall, I'm in support of everything else related to the design and really excited to see this move forward. Other questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Sandberg, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Overall, I'm in full support of this project. I think signage, or I'm not going to say signage, banners on a civic building of this size, though I don't have any examples of historic photos of this building in particular with banners. History's full of civic buildings with banners that are huge, whether they're museums, they're auditoriums, or anything of that nature. Throughout history, we have massive banners on these buildings, so I have no issue with the size or the locations. I think that you can go through photos of civic buildings and find all sorts of sizes and shapes and locations of the banners. My only issues with this is how it's being fixed to the building and to preserve the stone behind it. The anchor points on the corners are 4 fasteners, and I don't think you're going to be able to get all 4 fasteners in a masonry joint anywhere on the building. So I do wonder if you need all 4 fasteners, all four of those holes with a fastener in them. Could you live with 3 structurally? And then it's offset 2 inches from the building, so that wire will sit approximately 1 inch off of the front of the building. And the wind with the banners may make that wire rub against the building. Is the wire coated in any way, or do we have a metal wire rubbing against the building continuously? Those are my only real questions. Can it be projected a little bit further off the building? Would that save the building, or is that more of a structural issue and it creates more wind? I don't know all those details, but if you could speak to the longevity of that wire against the building and the fasteners in the joints.
Sure. Yeah. So for the fasteners for the joints, I think part of the next step for us, we'll do a full engineer study to make sure that we can minimize any penetrations in any mortar joints to avoid going directly into the face of the bricks themselves. Regardless of that cable, so that it's a galvanized steel braided cable. The 1 inch distance, the intent here is to even though it's a mesh banner, this is a really windy corridor, right? So we're trying to do everything we can to keep it tight against the building to avoid as much of that back and forth. So there is less wind load than you would see with the traditional 3-ounce like fabric banner or printed banner that doesn't have any breathability. So this is a system that we use, and it's a similar system that was used at the I think it was the Museum of Art for promotional signage, and it's something that's currently used at the current Rocket Arena. The intent of that 1 inch is to keep it structurally sound. There isn't really any long-term concern about the braided steel bouncing against the building, creating any damage. But we can certainly look into any protective coatings to maybe make it a little less abrasive in the future, just to preserve the building's intent.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberg. Other questions and comments, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm excited about the use, the purpose of the banners. It's a wonderful thing for Cleveland. My preference would have been for a blade sign type banner to minimize the view on the historic Ozark structure. Given that, I'm without that, I would be in agreement with the local design review on making the graphics a little more vertical and more in keeping with the windows that are there. I think they even like a framing around the images might set it off so that there is more of a transition of the stone of the building to the graphics to kind of give it a gentler introduction to the building. Those are basically my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Hearing fairly consistent feedback, would someone like to make a motion? I said hearing fairly consistent feedback, would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a motion to approve as presented with the requirement that all the fastening points on the building and details of the materials are submitted to staff.
Great, so we have a motion. Do you have a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion?
I would like to include the feedback from the design review to make the images a little more narrow, to be more consistent with the windows between the images.
Yeah, I would recommend require that the dimensions, the overall dimensions are finalized with staff as well.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Mr. Lozier supports that also. So thank you, Ms. Anderson. I was going to bring that up too. I just didn't want to do it mid-motion. So we have that additional requirement. Any further discussion? All right, then Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
AD Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, congratulations. We look forward to seeing this move forward. Exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We'll now move on to our National Register of Historic Places nominations and Ohio Historic Site Preservation Advisory Board from that meeting.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to be presenting on behalf of the applicant here. We do have someone from the ownership, Mr. James Shorey is here. He can talk about the future plan use if you want to come up. I'll just run through, I guess, staff's, a brief history of the building and then sort of staff's feelings on its significance. So I don't know, Jessica, if you just want to kind of click through these as I talk in no particular speed. So this is the Adams Bagnell Electric Company building. It's 7299 Platt. It's a 1911 to 1912 office and manufacturing building. It's a significant as a representation of the national electrical industry, which was essentially based in Cleveland during the late 19th and early 20th century. Thomas E. Adams and E.J. Bagnell began their careers working with Charles F. Brush at Brush Electric Company. Brush and Adams actually invented the Brush-Adams arc lamp, which was the first in the nation to light city streets in the 1880s. Adams further refined the arc lamp as the AB arc lamp, holding the patent which became the foundation of the Adams Bagnell Electric Company, which was founded in 1895. There's also some significance here with this building housing the Cleveland Motorcycle Manufacturing Company, which began operations in this building in 1915 under the leadership of the Adams Bagnell president, W.D.B. Alexander, and the vice president, D.C. Grease. The company designed and manufactured an innovative, award-winning, and popular Cleveland lightweight motorcycle that was used by the U.S. Army in France during World War I. The period of significance for the building dates from the commencement of construction in 1911 of the Adams Bagnell Electric Company building and ends in 1929 when the Cleveland Motorcycle Manufacturing Company ceased operations with the death of President William D.B. Alexander. Some later companies did occupy the building, and they were generally using it as a secondary facility. The National Screw and Tack Company acquired the building in 1920, and then Perfection Stove Company occupied the building in 1937, with their main production facility being located on Ivanhoe. They manufactured stoves, furnaces, base heaters, and winterization equipment for military and aircraft parts. I guess ultimately the Consolidated Iron and Steel Manufacturing took over ownership in 1958, and then they were consolidated with Taylor and Bogus Foundry Company, which made foundry castings, and then ultimately property was purchased in 1969 by Ogilvy Norton, which ceased operations in 2012, and it's been essentially vacant since. It's a commercial style vertical industrial loft, reinforced concrete building, open floor plan, and it retains its industrial manufacturing character. It essentially, aside from the windows and the hardwood flooring, everything is still intact in the building. Its form is really speaks to its significance. Remains in its historic location in an original setting along the industrial corridor of the Pennsylvania CMP Railroad. The retention of the historic fabric materials and craftsmanship is evident in the masonry exterior features, including projecting brick piers, symmetrical fenestration patterns, string courses, corbelling, stone accents, and expressed interior reinforced concrete. So staff would recommend the commission support the nomination of this property under criterion A, industry and invention. We support that it be listed in the National Register of Historic Places. As I said, we have Mr. Shorey here if you have any questions about the future use or if he just wants to share a little about the plans for the building. If you want to turn your mic on. Thanks.
I'll give just a quick presentation of how we got to where we are and then welcome any questions. We acquired the site about 10 years ago or so through the land banks. We've done the complete environmental assessment and cleanup of the property. We did a secondary cleanup of the building. So the building has been cleaned of all the contaminants, primarily asbestos, which was prevalent throughout the building. So the building is cleaned and ready to be redeveloped. The initial idea for the building was an arts incubator, and that remains today. It's the identified purpose of this building in particular. It addresses, it's 82,000 square feet. I can only, when artists walk in, and you have to understand the building is, if you know the building, it's situated in an open area. To the west is the Woodland Cemetery, so that's a completely unobstructed view. It's relative. The views all around the building are basically unobstructed, and the artists walk in, and they say, "Oh my God, look at the light," and that's what motivates us to press forward and to see if we can't, accomplish what we've set out to do. So, setting aside the artists for a moment, and this is a 501c3 nonprofit building, and the Arts Incubator is a 501c3 project. People used to say to me, "Oh, you're the landlord, and when this becomes really fancy, you'll just raise the rents." And I said, "No, see, there's going to be a committee of artists which determines the rents, and it's a different model than most of the typical studio places throughout the city in Northeast Ohio. There will be no landlord. So, we're going a different direction. And from the beginning, I actually stumbled across a program in Southern California called A Reason to Survive, arts.org. And if you read their mission statement, they recognize that the inner city children are incredibly vulnerable and are in need of programming other than frankly, drugs and violence. So we started working with the Boys and Girls Club. We've been working very closely with the city councilman and, Burton Bell Carr and Fairfax, and with some of the local churches, building a consensus where we develop, and by the way, we went to Rainey Institute, and they got a map out and measured the distance and said, yeah, we'd be happy to help manage and guide you through this process. We think that that's a valuable addition to that area of the city. And the statistics, I'm not going to bore you with statistics, but they indicate a great need for this type of service. So we started working with that, having a dedicated, it's about a 3,200 square foot space on the first floor where kids could just easily get in, come out, and there would always be an artist there. Okay, always. We're talking, afternoons till evening, 6 to 7 hours a day. Where they could engage with an artist and get involved. And we have lots of studies that show that this is actually a very doable, pragmatic, and it works. So several years ago, so that was our first targeted organization group of individuals in the community that we wanted to work with and serve. Returning Citizens emerged as a second group, which I was unaware of. Now I'm very well aware of. And we have a second group working with returning citizens. There's a number of programs. And I think most of you are probably aware of Gwen Garth as an artist. And she actually started painting in prison, and she's now on our board. And she perfectly epitomizes what art can do for that community. And I got involved with that effort through Trinity Church, Pastor Clark. I'm now very active in their situation, not just because of that, just a general, we were trying to push the concept of an urban arts district in. There's actually we have about 17 acres of land. Nobody would be displaced. It's all vacant land, large, for all intents and purposes. And we think that, art could be the defining characteristic of this community. And, then of course we drew in seniors because there's a nursing home right there. It's assisted living. It's not a nursing home. They would be upset. But again, and there's a lot of work and literature that speaks to how art can enhance the lives of senior citizens. And this isn't just going to see art, but getting them involved in it. So we have those three groups that we're trying to form into a cohesive programming. We've done that. We've started submitting some grants. It's about a $21 million project to rehabilitate this building. So it's that's a tall. I love it when people, why don't you start small? I said, well, you see, it's a big building and you can't just take 1 or 2 floors and start there. The building department wants us to make the entire building sound. So you have to face that. Let's not forget, and this is a critical part of the program, we will have roughly 90 to 93 studios, individual studios. I've taken dozens and dozens and dozens of groups of artists through and gotten their feedback. What do they want to see? And of course, what artists want to see is durable space, efficient. They're like, oh, you'll actually provide air conditioning? Yeah, this will be a modern building. We're exploring using geothermal. We don't want to have a lot of condensers all over the place, so we can use geothermal systems to, both use the earth as the source of heating and cooling, so you don't have those condensers around. I know I'm covering a lot of ground, so feel free. You can just take notes, and of course, everybody's welcome to come out, and I will give a personal tour to anybody that wants to see the building. HVAC, keep those windows are 9 feet by 8 feet. That's a big window. And, we've come up with some ideas. And of course, if we go HTC, we will be using the original double hung 4x4, I think they call it that, or configuration of window. And may have got that wrong, but nevertheless, you understand. That's your business. And but we're striving to keep costs down. We're targeting to be between $4 and $5 a square foot for these artists. So, the artists hear that and they're like, "Oh, wow, okay." And I said, "No, we'll have concrete floors. We'll have, floors of concrete, and this is not fancy space. This is for you to go in and create your art." And that's the focus. My goal, 90% of the space will be studio. We won't have big halls and empty space. We'll have, generous halls. The halls will be fine. You'll be able to wheel a printing press down the hall. And one interesting comment I got, well, if you could put rolling doors in, that's very helpful. And so we've changed the design to have rolling doors so that artists can, steer large pieces of work in and out without one of the main elevators will be, a very generously sized elevator so that big pieces can be moved in, high capacity, 5,000 pound elevator. So that's what we're trying to do with this building. The HTC credits are critical to the process. We're trying to reduce costs, keep those costs down. But as the point I wanted to make is, everybody looks at, when you go in and talk to the funders, well, how is this sustainable? Well, you see, we have a certain set aside. We'll have scholarship space. We'll have some subsidized studios in exchange for getting a subsidized studio or a scholarship space. You might have to donate some of your time teaching kids about art, but worse things could happen. And so, I'm not going to bore you with Montessori. Teaching is how you reinforce learning, your own learning. So we've sold this and said, no, you'll learn a lot by working with kids. Trust me. I have enough of them. But the critical part is it's a sustainable model in that you have rental income. And it's not the whole budget, but it's a significant part of the budget. So when you go to, a foundation or a donor and say, we need your help, no, you're not writing a check for the whole thing. You're writing a check to close gaps. And that's a much more doable model in today's environment than, just write the check. It's just, we don't anticipate that. And we're not building this on that model. So the HTC process, we've been working at this for a number of years. I know you're all very familiar with that. Everybody's been very supportive. So we're excited.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that feedback and your vision, because it's obviously a very lofty
go on,
but a
but I
beautiful
won't.
vision. No, I think you've given us a lot to understand the
Well, your support is
future.
critical, and we're grateful for your support.
Yes.
Because, it's not a layup. The building is, people go, oh, well, it's interesting, but really?
Most discrete buildings are sometimes the best, and I think that's what's intriguing to me is that you have a lot of very simple but very
Achievable.
the structure's there, and it's still in a good enough shape.
Oh,
that
it's in
it can,
fabulous shape.
lead
We've
to
had
the future,
structural
so.
people in there, and
Excellent.
they're like, one guy just said, I wish we built buildings like this.
Exactly.
But,
So-
and I'll quickly say, yesterday I was at the groundbreaking for the Midline Business District, that whole thing, and we're hoping that the Midline goes on alongside us so we can integrate with the Midline. Won't bore you with that, but that has exciting opportunities. But, these buildings are coming down.
And we
Westinghouse
appreciate,
is coming down.
And we appreciate that you're keeping this one up
That's,
and that you have a
that's why
vision
this
for
is
it.
important.
So let's see if there's some more feedback from the commission. Overall, I don't have much more to say beyond I'm in full support of this. I think not seeing your, architectural vision yet, that would be next. But I am fully in support of the nomination for it to be placed on the National Historic Place
Thank you.
list. So any other feedback from the commission?
Something short. I want to applaud you because 2 years ago, I seen you and Councilman Starr over there when you guys were reviewing, a bunch of you guys, and I drove through that area and I had to stop and said, oh my gosh, are you guys trying to do something with this building that's sat there for years looking like that? And when I spoke to Councilman Starr the following day, he was like, yes, we trying to create apartments, studios per se. I said, really? I was like, whoever got that eye for that is really a great architect, because as many years I have lived over there, we couldn't even imagine what else could be done to a building that sat that long looking like that in our urban community. But just to know the notion, you looked at something 2 years ago, and here you are here in this in this meeting. I'm just walking in the door to see that. I was like, wow, this is the building. So yes, I will support our chair recommendation to say that we're appreciative to know that this building could be cited as dealing with the National Registry per se, to know that you can move forward with this building. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Other questions and comments from the commission? Would someone like to make a motion? Right?
You're looking for a motion to support the nomination. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, to support the Adams Bagnell Electric Company building for the to be on the National Register of Historic Places, Historic Site Preservation Advisory Board. That's the right terminology.
So we have supported the nomination of the National Registry of Historic Places.
A second. Yes.
And then, I'm sorry, who second?
I said a second.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussions? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
AD Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Sambry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations. We look forward to you continue on through the next step.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks, James.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I do welcome anybody that would like to come out. It's just amazing. I'll point out, if you go back to this one picture, the interior picture. No, yeah.
There you
You
go.
know, we rebuilt all the stairs, like right here. Every pillar, interior pillar is curved brick. Throughout the entire building. Just that kind of attention to detail when they built it speaks to what they used to do when they built to manufacture the building in the golden age of Cleveland. It's just amazing. Unfortunately, the wood floors, those were all, the wood floors were beautiful, but unfortunately they were contaminated with asbestos and other stuff.
Right.
Sounds.
Right.
But,
Well, we look forward to you coming back to us, hopefully, in the near future with the future, your bringing your vision to life. So thank you so much for the presentation.
unfortunately, it'd be boring.
Ah, we like that. That's exciting. So thank you again. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with you if we want to organize just a field trip. If people are interested, we can work on that. I'll send a letter this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
So it's a letter to the Ocean Bend meeting?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so this concludes our agenda related to nominations. We'll move on to meeting minutes. There were 3 that were circulated from November 13th, 2025, December 11th, 2025, and February 12th, 2026. Were there any questions and comments on the meeting minutes, or would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 13th, 2025, December 11th, 2025, and February 12th, 2026.
Right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stanberry. Any further discussion?
You know, I noticed that the minutes have been kind of shortened to just very basic. Is that because we can reference the actual testimony in the YouTube videos?
Correct, yes, through the chair. Sort of as a lot of staff discussion around the minutes and just generally getting caught up. Our feeling, I guess, consulting with law as well, the feeling being that the results of the meetings, you know, they're accessible. We not only keep the recordings in our office, but they're also available for like on YouTube. So, you know, the minutes themselves were required to keep to maintain our CLG or certified local government status with the state, but these meet that standard. So I feel like if people want more depth, then we could send them the recording essentially.
How long will the recording sessions be available?
So on YouTube, I don't know that I think just forever, but then we also keep a copy of the recording in the office and on the city servers too. So those will be available, like those will be archived and will always be available.
Thank you.
All right, so we had the motion, we had the second. Any further discussion beyond Ms. Anderson? All right, Mr. Mustin, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
AD Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Stanberry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Krasik?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent.
Thank
Then we
you.
move on to administrative reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess with the approval of today's meetings, we're finished and caught up with 2025. So we have a few from 2022 left and then some from the beginning of 2026. So we're getting through that backlog. So Jessica's been hard at work. And I
Good
think
job,
she
Jessica.
appreciates the shortened format, but also wanted to mention the Saperstein Garage and House is officially our newest landmark. So that went through council and was approved. Also just wanted to note that an RFQ was issued for 4 landmark schools, or former schools, the Audubon, Central, Empire, and Mount Auburn. So anyone knows anyone who'd be interested in any of those, that's available on the city's website, or I could send it to you. Also related to schools, we have the Wilson School site visit on Friday scheduled. The school district CMSD is requiring that everyone who attends fill out a liability waivers. Those were attached to the agenda meeting request that went out for Friday. And I also have hard copies here for those who are virtual, or if you want to send it electronically, if you could just scan and send that at least an hour before the site visit, or if you're here and you think you're going to attend, you could fill one out now and then we'll have it on file. But the school district did want those before the site visit starts. So yeah, aside from, I think that's it. Go Cavs.
Go Cavs. Excellent. I guess then with that, then we will adjourn our meeting and look forward to seeing everyone. I will not be able to attend the next meeting, but Mr. Lozier will chair and I will see you at the next June meeting after that. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.